Reputation is a huge thing in the Arab world. It's huge.
Yeah.
You have a bad reputation and people know, and like if they're not going to cover for you, that can ruin your future.
Yes.
Like I'm not exaggerating. That's why parents are especially strict on their female daughters because unfortunately when it comes to culture, we need to be sinless. We cannot make any mistakes, and
Yeah.
if we do, obviously it has to be kept secret. Like you can't, I mean, with guys, it's different. They can go
Yes.
out and stay out till midnight and it's fine because he's a guy. Unfortunately, this is not religion, this is culture.
Yeah.
But again, culture has a huge effect and especially with generations that can't differentiate between culture and religion. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, reputation is a huge thing. They will go around and ask like families and neighbors and coworkers and go on social media and Google their name. They want to make sure that especially for their daughter, they're getting a good man. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you make a good point. I think just to add to that, right? Like Islam itself is, when it comes to marriage, it's very simple, right? It's
Mhm.
Right.
you both are Muslim, you both follow the word of Allah and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and as long as you both are on the same page, if the boy agrees and the girl agrees, there you go, and everybody's happy.
That's
You
it.
know,
Yeah.
that's it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But when what it becomes complicated when culture gets involved, because every culture, whether you're Arab, you're African, you're South Asian, whatever it is, every culture has their own sort of nooks and crannies of how they want things to be done, right? So for me personally, like my ex-husband, he was not Pakistani. I'm Pakistani, and he is half Guyanese and half Dominican. So when I met him, it was this huge thing with my parents where it was like, oh, but he's not Pakistani. He doesn't speak the language, or his food is different. How is he going to communicate? It's a completely different family. Luckily, our my in-laws at the time in my family were a little bit similar in background, because a lot of Guyanese are, their ancestry is from India, which is very similar to Pakistan. So that kind of, it was okay. But the point is that when culture gets involved, there's all these other additional factors that families consider, and are they successful, and who do they know, and all of this stuff that makes it more complicated than it needs to be. So marriage and dating and love and relationships, it strays so far away from what has actually been portrayed by Islam, that is needed. It's very simple in Islam, but culture makes it difficult, because then we start asking for all of these, this list of things that we want our daughters or our sons to have in a spouse, that aren't always necessarily feasible. And I think that's what a lot of our parents and the older generations heavily focus on. But I think some of our, like my generation and the younger generations that are coming are, I think, straying away from that. Like we see a lot of mixed race couples that are Muslim now, and that's what it should be. There's no, restriction on dating someone or marrying someone who is outside of your culture. But as long as you're both on the same page of religion and faith, that's what's important. So I think that's really important to point out, that culture and religion are two very, very different
Yeah.
things.